Sutra, choice, law, disorder. Disorder attracts trouble. Everyone has their own order in their mind and in their belongings, which helps organize their thoughts and actions. The lack of such organization allows the chaos of the world to disrupt our plans. It is often said, order on the desk equals order in the mind. This isn't quite accurate, rather, the dependency is the opposite. If a person is used to organizing everything in their mind, they will want to organize their office supplies in the same way. And the systems can vary. Order doesn't necessarily mean a clean desk, it simply means having a functioning system. The Greek word cosmos means both order and beauty. Think of the word cosmetics. This was a key concept in ancient Greek culture and was used to denote the universal order established by the gods contrasted with chaos, the universal disorder. The Greeks understood the intrinsic connection between cosmic order and the beauty of the human inner world. If the gods created the world harmoniously, then everything in this world should adhere to the laws of harmony and order. When a system malfunctions, we lose control over it, and then trouble ensues. Trouble is our assessment of events we are unprepared for, which force us to do things we don't want to do. Thus, trouble is a predictable and inevitable, though perhaps not immediately recognizable, result of a lack of control over a situation. To control a situation, one must at least be actively engaged in it. Thus, order is about organizing one's own life. This can be achieved either by using existing traditions, behavioral rules, schedules, etc., or by creating one's own behavioral regulators. In modern terms, order for a contemporary person is primarily a matter of self-management. Order arises from the need to determine appropriate places for objects, their relationships, and fundamental categories of thinking. Order starts in the mind. As a fundamental phenomenon, it is crucial in the military, government administration, medicine, science, business, industrial production, accounting, and even in one's own home. A house is a machine for living, as Le Corbusier said. Sociologist Pierre Bourdieu and his student Luc Boltanski assumed that no social order is created on its own or imposed from above by higher social authorities, but is the result of ongoing negotiation and reorganization of numerous practices created from the bottom up. In these conditions, controlling the situation is possible only by changing along with it. Every living organism is a biological system operating according to certain laws and rules. Through a long process of evolution, all living things have learned to adapt to constantly changing environmental conditions. However, all changes are of a highly predictable nature since nature itself dislikes disorder. The striving for order and harmony can be observed in many animals, seen in their external aesthetic traits necessary for reproduction, and their ability to sense beauty, harmony, and symmetry. Cleanliness and order follow immediately after love for God. Charlotte Bronte. The human brain has an inherent need for correctness and predictability. The brain likes visual repetitions and rhythms, such as the patterns found on Indian or Persian carpets. Predictability is the most acceptable to us on a general level. On one hand, the tendency toward correctness or order reflects a deep need of our visual system for efficient processing of visual signals. On the other hand, the ability to recognize correct forms serves as a protective mechanism for the organism. Since vision evolved mainly for locating and detecting objects to grab, hide, mate, eat, or catch. In nature, important means biological objects, such as prey, predators, members of the same species, males or females, and all these objects have something in common: symmetry. That's why symmetry attracts attention and excites. Before the advent of logical thinking, which is present only in organisms at higher levels of evolution, there were no other ways to accumulate and pass on life experience to offspring except by instilling the ability to recognize aesthetic features of physical objects in the environment. Harmony, order, and aesthetic beauty turned out to be universal mechanisms for signaling to living beings the favorability of conditions and environmental factors necessary for fulfilling their basic needs. On the other hand, disorder and chaos became signals of distress and unfavorable conditions for survival and reproduction. Disorder is a way of warning living beings of impending danger. When entering a new group, a person usually observes it first. The speaking evidence about employees can be their workspaces, which can tell a lot about their owners, their habits, characters, and current state. Order and cleanliness usually indicate a person's organization and responsibility. Scraps of paper, millions of notes, and other clutter likely indicate that a person is scatterbrained and doesn't always prioritize correctly. Typically, their desk is cluttered with reminder notes about important or interesting tasks planned for the near future. Disorder makes us slaves. Today's disorder reduces tomorrow's freedom. Henri Amiel. It is difficult to live in harmony with chaos. David Bowie. However, such a diversity of human interests does not always benefit the main task. Psychologists from the University of Florida, observing 5,000 Americans aged 32 to 84, found that disorder in the workplace and unnecessary items not involved in the task at hand reduce concentration and, as a result, productivity, and also negatively impact employees' mental abilities. Moreover, disorder and unnecessary items lead to stress as they constantly remind of all the unfinished and urgent obligations. As a result, instead of focusing on specific tasks, we are constantly distracted by external matters, wasting energy and nerves. According to one study, around 60% of employees judge their colleagues based on the level of order, or disorder, at their workplaces. Half of them admit that they are horrified by the level of messiness of their office neighbors. Researchers also found that for many people, disorder is seen as a sign of laziness. In other words, if you surround yourself with cluttered space, there is a lazy person within you. Forbes published a study showing a direct link between the presence of order or disorder at the workplace and employee productivity and motivation. The more cluttered a worker's workspace, the less productive and motivated they are, confirms Jenny Didd, vice president of a recruiting company. Office disorder is directly related to an employee's organizational skills. Many admit that they often lose necessary documents or other important work materials in piles of paper and more. The contents of the computer are also prone to disorder. Sometimes it's impossible to quickly find what is needed. Laura Stack, president of a consulting firm, says, most people spend about 30 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, searching for needed files on their computers. All of this creates numerous problems at work, as it takes up our time and creates a negative image in the eyes of colleagues and management. What kind of order? A garden without beds. But it's important to remember one nuance: often someone else's order seems to us like disorder because it differs from our own. To understand others, interact effectively, and learn new things, we need to learn to understand the logic of another person's order and their thinking strategy. The more strategies we master, the broader our ability to acquire information, think outside the box, and understand people living in a different dimension. Accepting the fact of the existence of a different vision of order allows us to learn optimal strategies for various types of activities and expand the boundaries of our worldview. To understand a strategy we haven't used before, it is useful to consult with professionals in that field. They can help us tune into a new wave and acclimate to a new thinking scheme. His Holiness the Dalai Lama 14 links the painful chaos of the world to the fact that people and things have swapped places. People were created to be loved, and things were created to be used. The world is in chaos because everything is reversed, he said. Establishing divine order and overcoming chaos is equivalent to escaping the vicious cycle of suffering. The duty of bringing order to one's soul, life, and karma lies with the individual. It is impossible for someone else to do the work and you to reap the rewards. Reading books about someone's spiritual development will not give you understanding of it. You must perfect yourself. She was not devoted to order, though it seemed otherwise. She simply had her own desperate method. She hid the disorder. Here's the translation. Gabriel Garcia Marquez. A disordered person cannot live in goodness for long. Excessive order is the same as disorder. Religions are very attentive to order because order itself is the criterion of a conscious, well-planned, and structured spiritual path. Saint Gregory the Theologian, 4th century, in his hymn to God's creation, which is arranged harmoniously and in a certain order, says, just as under the dominion of order, everything has structure and immutable beauty, so disorder and confusion have given rise to storms in the air, earthquakes on land, shipwrecks at sea, strife in cities and homes, diseases in bodies, and sins in souls. All these are names of disorder or chaos, not order or peace. Even the universally known and expected destruction is nothing more than, brethren, an increase in disorder, for order binds, and disorder destroys. According to the Bible, the Lord created the world in a certain order and sequence, Genesis 1, and the same applies to humans. He established a certain order for humanity, which he clothed in commandments to Adam and Eve, including the commandment not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve were punished not for knowledge, but for violating divine order. Great attention is paid to order in Kabbalah. The order of the world is seen by Kabbalists as isomorphic to the order of the Hebrew alphabet. If a child is not taught order from an early age, if it is not rooted in their nature, then they will constantly have to make efforts to overcome all restrictions. The earlier we begin to associate discipline with love, the easier it will be for them to live, advise Kabbalah experts. Cleanliness and order have a beneficial effect on our activities. As space is cleared, so is thinking. For example, in Islam, external and internal cleanliness are of utmost importance. External disorder generates internal disorder, and conversely, restoring external cleanliness also purifies the internal space from distracting thoughts that divert a Muslim from their path. The Quran says, indeed, Allah loves those who repent and those who purify themselves, Quran 2:222, meaning Allah loves those who maintain their soul in order and purity. A Muslim who maintains cleanliness of thought and body often finds it easier to concentrate on religious duties and life's purpose. With 7 nurses, the child is not tended to. No one likes it when things go badly. From disorder, even a large army perishes. 2 dangers threaten the world, order and disorder. Paul Valery. Usually, when we talk about disorder, we mean physical disorder, on the street, in the house, on the table. It is well known that this disorder only worsens our comfort. But there are other types of disorder, disorder in the mind, disorder in relationships, a disordered lifestyle, etc. All of these are unified by a lack of internal order and lead to a loss of control over one's life. Problems begin to accumulate, and if order is not restored, everything can spiral into deterministic chaos and end fatally. Deterministic chaos is the inconsistent behavior of a system whose dynamics depend on interconnected factors. Its characteristic feature is that changes in the system are unstable. Accordingly, long-term forecasts for such systems are impossible. The final state of the system cannot be predicted, and even minor deviations in its parameters can lead to completely opposite results. Chaos theory is commonly used for weather forecasting, capital turnover in society, describing human behavior, societal dynamics, and much more. Thus, a lack of order in our lives is a definite lack of guarantee of achieving the results we hope for. Our actions may worsen the situation or may not change it. But actions that seem to lead to improvement can also simply be ineffective. It becomes meaningless to do anything because the result is unpredictable. In our regiment, there's no sense. Whoever gets up early and grabs the stick becomes the corporal. Everything is in order, sleds in Kazan, harness at the bazaar without clearing, even the forest is not worth it. Disorder not only reduces the effectiveness of our activities, it can change their meaning and direction. Worse still, we lose control of the situation and the ability to orient ourselves in what is happening. Psychologists claim that disorder leads to stress and an inability to concentrate. People living and working in disorder find it very difficult to make decisions, which leads to poor self-organization, weak results, a negative image in the eyes of others, and constant stress and guilt. However, these are not the only negative consequences of disorder. Professor Sherry Carter describes the full extent of the problem. Disorder overloads our consciousness and senses. We tire much faster because all our systems are engaged, but in vain. Disorder, in her view, irritates a person because they can never predict where to find the necessary item and how long it will take. Disorder also instills a sense of guilt and shame, especially at moments when someone accidentally visits their home or workplace. Sherry Carter's views are confirmed by other experts. Neurologists at Princeton University compared the work conditions of employees in several organizations, their work activities, and mental states. The results were unfavorable for those whose workplaces were in disorder. These people experience more stress and show less favorable results. Researchers at the University of Los Angeles found that all the women they observed had increased stress hormones while sifting through items in search of what they needed. Scientists discovered that the brain behaves in these moments just like it does during multitasking. This means that the senses are overloaded, stress levels rise, and the ability to think creatively and make decisions is blocked. Woe to the one who has disorder in their home. From disorder, every affair is shaky. In such a situation, the likelihood of negative consequences is very high. With every second, every minute, the number of troubles will only increase. And the greater the disorder, the more troubles there will be. This pattern is reflected in many folklore works. For example, the Madagascan folk tale The Hen and the Papango tells of a careless hen who, due to the disorder in her yard, lost a good friend. It is said that once the hen needed a needle. She ran around the entire area to borrow one, but the neighbors were nowhere to be found, and the hen didn't know what to do. Suddenly, she heard a bird crying above her head, "Kahoo! Kahoo!" It was the Papango. In those days, the hen and the Papango were friends, and the Papango agreed to lend her a needle. Unfortunately, Rakuhuvavi, as the hen was called, lost it because her yard was always in disorder. In the evening, the Papango came for the needle, but the hen could not return it and apologized as best she could. The angry Papango did not want to listen to anything and said that he would come again for his needle the next day. The whole day the hen and her friends searched for the needle and did not find it. The hen dug in the ground, looked under every blade of grass. The needle was gone, and that's it. The Papango came and, in terrible anger, demanded some other item to compensate for the loss. But the hen, who was used to collecting many things, needed and not needed, did not want to give him anything. So, the papango, instead of his needle, grabbed her chick and cried out, "Let all my descendants be cursed who forget the harm done to me, befriend the hen, and stop pursuing her children and grandchildren." It is said that since then, the hen and the papango became enemies. When the papango circles over the village, he cries out, "Filu! Kahoo! Kahoo!" This is him demanding the needle from the hen. If he succeeds, he steals her chicks. From order, small things grow, while from disorder even large ones falter. From disorder in the house, one probably can also derive a special kind of pleasure, but I am not capable of understanding this yet. Max Fry. Where there are 100 orders for a simple task, things do not go smoothly. And the hen still scratches the ground with her paws and pokes with her nose. She tries to find the needle. Everyone builds internal models and strives to arrange external objects according to the same system. We start from what is more convenient for our brain, what it does better. Each of us has a specific type of information assimilation in order for processing signals from the external world. If it seems that surrounding things do not obey us and our actions do not lead to the goal, it can be very useful to start systematizing our thoughts, for example, through time management. If we put order in the details, they will then, like bricks, form a coherent system of our existence. Thus, not only in our dreams but also in real life, we can replace the chaos that fragments our personality with order and harmony.